Hello, everyone, and welcome to the April 29th edition of the Wow Wednesday webinar. I am Sandra Kelly. I'm a fellow distributor, chairperson for the series, and your host for today. And today, our webinar is COVID-19. Where do we go from here? Our presenter is Ben Baker. He's the founder of Your Brand Marketing. We would like to thank all of you for joining us today, all 22 regional associations, as well as our webinar sponsor, Edwards Garment. I'd like to give a special shout out to our latest regional to join us, and that would be CASA, CASA. They are joining us from the Caribbean, and we are so happy to have you guys aboard.
Thanks, Sandra. You are extremely gracious for having me. Thanks to Paul and you for organizing this. It seems like we've been talking about this for 8 or 9 months now. I think Paul originally reached out to me late last year to talk about this, and I immediately grabbed at the spot. I said, you know what, I'm going to love it. So the world has changed dramatically since we first agreed to talk about this, and quite honestly my subject has changed, and it's really important that we take a look at where we are today, where we're going, and how we're going to get there together, because this is a watershed moment. COVID-19 is a watershed moment. It's something our kids are going to tell their grandkids about, something that's going to be written up in history books. And I think we have an opportunity as an industry to grab onto this and really stand tall. And I think it's a matter of looking at how can we do this, how can we communicate effectively, how can we help our customers better, and how can we be more effective. So before we start, a couple of housekeeping things. One, I'm a big believer, if you have questions, let me know. I'm monitoring the chat group, so if you guys are in, people right now, put a shout out in the chat group. Let me know where you're from. I'd love to know where people are from. There's over 250 of you on the call right now. Love to know where some people are from. I'm up in Vancouver, BC. How many people are from Michigan? How many people are from Arizona? How many people are from wherever? Can we get some people already in the chat group? Or are you seeing those in the question? Are people putting those in the question group, Sandra?
Oh my, you have started something, Ben. They're all responding in the question group, and boy, they are from all over the United States and
Awesome.
Canada.
Awesome.
Yes.
No, I'm glad to hear, and special shout out to the Caribbean. It's great to have some new blood into the organization. I'm hoping to get down to Trinidad and Tobago. I'm supposed to be speaking there in September. We'll see what happens, but I'm hoping to get down there to do a couple of talks in late September. We'll have to see how that goes. But let's get into the talk. I mean, my big thing is, if you guys have questions, let me know. Put them into the chat group or put them into the question group, wherever you guys are comfortable with. If I don't see them, hopefully Sandra sees them, and we'll get to them as we go. My question is, if you have a question about something, probably somebody else as well. So let's get to it. Now, the first thing I want to talk to people about is, how are you feeling right now? How are people feeling? And put it in the group. Put it either in the chat room or the question group or wherever you guys are comfortable. How are people? Because some people are confident, some people are fearful, some people are anxious, some people are insecure. Some people are inspired. The question is, where are you today? And it's not about where everybody else is. It starts with you. It really does start with you. What is your thought process about where we are today and where we're going? Because before you can start communicating with other people, before you can understand what their viewpoint is, what their thought process is, you need to be comfortable with what yours is. And whatever your thought is, that's okay. I talk to a lot of people every single day. I am probably on Zoom calls 4 or 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, with people around the world. And it's amazing the entire breadth of emotions that people are feeling because of this. And they go from totally and absolutely overwhelmed all the way to excited and passionate about where things are going. And you need to understand why. Why are people feeling the way they're feeling? And we need to have that conversation, because as we're going to look moving forward, Those conversations are what are going to differentiate us moving forward, and that's really important. So,
Being
yes.
I just like to give you a little bit of feedback. So we do have people that did respond to your question. We have quite a few people who are feeling stressed right now. Some are a little frustrated. Some are distraught, cautious. Some are way too relaxed. I'd like to be where they are. And then we also have someone here who's feeling positive energy for the future. So we're pretty much got everything covered.
And I think that that's important. I think it's important to realize that you're not alone. Whatever you're probably feeling, there are other people feeling it as well. You know, if you look between me, my wife, and my son, and you ask us each individually, how do we feel about, where we are and where we're going, you're going to get three different opinions within the same household. So think about it within your work, within your customers, within their customers. Everybody is feeling either anxious or insecure or scared or happy or excited. And you need to be able to understand where they are in order to be able to help them, because you need to have a ground zero. You need to know where, what's the thought process going into people's heads. So the first question I like to ask people right now is, what's the first crisis you remember? And I'm old enough to remember all of these. So, we start off with the gas crisis in the 1980s. We got AIDS. We have Y2K. We have 9/11. We have the recession in 2008. And right now we have COVID-19. How many people were with me in January 2002 in Vegas? 4 months after 9/11. It was a ghost town. They were so ecstatic. The people that were living there, the people that were working there were so ecstatic to have us there. It was amazing that they were excited that people would actually get on a plane and you know travel from all over North America and all over wherever the people were coming from to come to Vegas for a trade show 3.5 months after that travesty, that people were confident enough to get on a plane and go to an unsecure location and gather in large groups. It was amazing. I mean, yes, it was a much smaller expo. There's no question about it. Maybe we were three-quarters of what we were the year before, but the people were there. We're excited about the future. They realized what had gone through. They realized that they were in a watershed moment, but they were also realizing that some amazing things were going to come out of it. And the way we were going to come out of it was by talking about it and working together. So how many people do you remember that? How many people were actually there? Was there people on that call? I mean, we're up to about 268 people right now. Was there anybody there that January of 2002? Does anybody remember that? And I'd love to hear, if somebody's got a reflection on that. I'd love to hear what their thought process is walking into Expo that year.
We do have a person here, Ken Kelsey, says he was,
Ken, how are you, Ken?
well, he can't hear you, but I'm sure he's listening, but he was there. Also, we have another person, Stephen. He says he remembered them. He remembers
Yeah.
that year he
Yeah.
dropped.
Ken and I have been going to Expo together for a lot of years together. So, Ken, great to have you on the webinar. What I'm trying to get out of this is, this is not our first crisis. Yes, COVID-19 is different. Yes, it's worldwide. It's gonna fundamentally change how we think and how we act and how we engage with each other. But it's not the first crisis that we've gone through. There are amazing things in innovation and changes and how work is done that have come out of every single one of these. The innovations that came from AIDS were innovations in science. 9/11 there was innovation in terms of how we engaged with each other. 2008 brought us Uber, they brought us Airbnb. There are amazing things that have come out of every single one of these crises. And we need to realize that, yes, it's a crisis, but we're going to get through it. And we're not going to go back to the way things are, and things are going to change. And we need to understand what those changes are, how they affect us, how they affect our customers, and be able to move forward in a different way. Because if we keep thinking we're going to go back to the way things were and we're keeping to do business the way that we did it, we're going to be in trouble. Now, here's the agenda, and it's a really simple agenda. It's three things. Where did we come from? Where are we now? And where are we going? I'm a big believer that every single person needs to be able to tell this story. And you need to be able to tell this story from an industry point of view, from a company point of view, from a personal point of view. You need to know, where did you come from? Where are you now? Who are you serving? Why do you serve them? What's the value that you add? What differentiates you? Who truly are your customers? And why do they care about you? And where are you going as a company? What is the future look like? What is the story that you're telling about where we're heading as an industry, as a company, as people? All of this thing is really important, because if you can visually tell that story internally and to yourself, to your employees, to your customers, to your vendors, to the world, people are going to listen. If you can't tell a story, if you can't bring people along with the journey, and it's not just we're going to be the most successful company in the world, we're going to be a successful company in the world because we've gone through these challenges. These are the things that we've learned. These are the things that have beaten us up. This is how we've changed because of it, and this is how we're going to serve you better because of the knowledge and the experiences that we've had. It's about understanding that there's the good and the bad and the ugly, and we need to embrace all of it. If we do that, we're going to be so much better. So where do we come from? I love this shot. The promotional product industry, I relate to the film industry. It's an industry, and it has been an industry for years, that needs to innovate. It needs to grow up. It needs to change, but it hasn't. It's clinging to the way things always have been. It's clinging to the way that, this is how we've always done things, so this is the way we're always going to do things. And that's a dangerous thing. Look what happened to Kodak. Look what happened to the film industry, because they didn't innovate, because they didn't change, because they didn't assess, what was going on in the marketplace. They became obsolete. And that's the promotional product industry. We're no longer in the swag industry. We're no longer in the, in the cheap Chinese stuff industry. We are in the industry of solving problems. We're in the industry of communication. We're in the industry of, creating those emotional ties between our customers and their customers. That's the industry that we're in. But the problem is, time and time again, when I go to Expo, and I have been going to Expo since before it was in Vegas. I remember walking the aisles in Dallas, and I go there year after year, and I walk my 20, 25 miles a day, and I talk, to the vendors, and I talk to the different distributors, and I don't hear innovation, and I don't hear change, and I don't hear people saying that we're going to do things differently, and they're not talking to their customers about, programs, and they're talking to them about communication. They're not talking to them about, what does their customers need, and what are they trying to tell their customers, and what is the value of the customers to them. They're thinking about, what can I sell them that's cheap today? What is the flyer that I got today from my supplier that I can turn around and I can flip that out and I can make money today? And those days are gone. Those days are gone, because guess what? Those days have led us to fill landfills with our products. I have a vision of going to a trade show, and it was an industry trade show for the construction industry, and somebody gave out thousands of yard-long rulers, and they says, does your current supplier measure up? And it was a nice thought process, and they gave out thousands of these things. And if you looked at the exit of the trade show floor, the garbage cans were full of it. And when you got to the airport and you looked at the garbage cans, those rulers were full, were filling the garbage cans. And the reason is why? Because they were too big and too bulky, and they were difficult for people to carry, and they were difficult for people to pack, and therefore they ended up filling the landfill. It might have been cute, it might have been pithy, but did it solve a problem? Was that ruler going to end up in people's hands, and was it something that people were going to use and utilize and help their customers tell their story long term to their customers and build added value? And the answer is no. And our industry needs to change from people that just sell stuff that have logos on it to people that are sitting there going, how do you want your customers to think about you when you're not in the room? What's the story that you want to tell? Who are your customers? What value do you provide to them? How are you different from your competitors? Tell me about your brand. We're not doing that. That's where we need to be. Now, today, as I said, it's a watershed moment. We're in a watershed moment. We have the opportunity right now, while we're all sitting at home and our customers are not buying, to evaluate where we are. This is a time of introspection. This is a time to look at who are we as a company? What do we do? Why do we do it? I don't care if you're a distributor. I don't care if you're a supplier. I don't care if you're a rep. And to sit there and say, who are my key customers? They're not just somebody with a heartbeat and a Visa card. Who are the people that I can truly serve? What is the value that I add to them? How do I help them be successful? Does my messaging communicate that? Does how I act as a company and as a person and as the people within my company, are we supporting that? Are we leveling up to understand what does the communication industry do? What do agencies do? How do they communicate with their customers? We think that we're a $25 billion company industry. We're a blip in the amount of money that these companies spend. We're a blip. Whether it's the 250 pens or the 500 mugs or the 1,000 t-shirts or the 25,000 cozies, we're a blip. We are truly a blip in their advertising budget. And the question is, how do we get more of that? How do we get people to understand that our industry brings value, that we're not just stuff that they hand out once and it's given away and it's forgotten, it's given to the grandkids, or it ends up in the garbage, or it ends up in a drawer, or ends up in the trunk of the car and forgotten? How do we give away better stuff? How do we give away stuff that is relevant not only to our customer's brand, but also relevant to their customers? That when somebody who's the end user receives something that we produce, something that we help them develop, that those people go, wow, that's amazing. Thank you for giving me this. That is awesome. And it's something that they're going to use. Now, give you an example of the last 5 years of my life. I do very little promotional projects right now, do very little promotional projects. Our goal is on leadership. It's an internal engagement. It's helping companies communicate more effectively internally and externally. That's what we do. But when we are building promotional products, what we had is we have a company that makes roller coasters around the world. We produced 100 working miniature roller coasters that look like one of the roller coasters to give out to the top 100 CEOs in the world that buy roller coasters. That's the level that we do. It's something that's going to sit on these people's desk for the next 10 or 15 years, give them something to play with. And every time this CEO thinks about, that gift, that the thing that's sitting on their desk, they're going to be thinking about my customer, and they're going to be thinking about the relationship. And that's what we need to be thinking about. That's what we need to be reassessing right now. Do we add value to our customer, and do we add value to our customers' customers? Are we building that wow factor? Are we building relationships? Are we helping our customers communicate their value to their customers and help them cement relationships so they get to be bigger and better and more effective companies? Now is the time to be thinking about that. Look at how you communicate. Look at your websites. Look at your verbiage. Look at your brochures. Take a look at your communication within your sales force. Take a look at your communication within your company. Are you asking the right questions? Are you asking the questions that are going to help you differentiate yourself so you're not just seen as somebody that sells things that are cheap and things that are just giveaways and you know what, I can buy it from anybody? Or are you somebody that's going to solve their problem, somebody that's going to help them solidify relationships with their customers? That's where we need to be today. We need to be reassessing. We need to be evaluating. We need to be looking at where we've been and where we are and who our customers truly are and how we truly help them succeed. The money will come. The money always does come, but will only come is if we can differentiate ourselves. If we can sit there and truly define how we are different from our competitors, how we add value to specific clients, how we have knowledge about our customers that our competitors don't. And that's what we need to be focusing on right now. Now, moving forward, it's all about stories. It is absolutely about stories. It's about helping our customers tell their stories effectively. It's realizing that the promotional products that we provide are part of an overall package. It's not the promotional product itself. It's how that promotional product builds that story and builds that relationship between our customers and theirs. It's telling the story of the brand. It's telling the value that your customer has to their customer. It's showing how they are different, how they are unique, how they are listening to their customer because they're giving away something that's actually valuable to the people that they're giving it to. And they're not giving away something that's cheap. The worst word in the promotional marketing world, in fact, in any world, is cheap. Cheap is a horrible word. It can be inexpensive, but cheap is a bad quality piece. You know, I can get you 69-cent pens that are really good quality pens, and I can get you 69-cent pens that are going to leak in your pocket. The question is, who's the vendor that you're going to go with? Are you going to go with a vendor that's tried and true and reliable and is going to take care of you? Or are you going to save yourself 2 cents a pen and go with somebody that's going to provide you something that may leak in your customer's pocket or in their customer's pocket? What does that story tell? If your customers are giving away something cheap, it makes them look cheap. It makes them look like they don't value their customers. It makes them look like they're not the ones that think that their customers are worth keeping. Better that your customers give away way fewer pieces and way better pieces. Something that is unique, something that is different, something that has that velvet rope mentality. It's that $40 or $50 pen that you do 100 of and say, look, we had these pens produced. There are only 100 of them. We only have 100 of these things. You know, I was given 10. I want you to have one because you're one of my best clients. That tells a far better story than would you like a pen? It's building those relationships. It's building those stories. It's building that emotional tie. And that's what we need to be doing as companies. We need to be in the emotional tie business. We need to help our customers be more successful. And when they say, I don't know, I just need something cheap that I can put on a trade show table, the first question you need to do is say, why? Why do you need to give away something cheap? Why do you need to give away something like everybody else is doing? Why do you need to look like everybody else? What does that say about your brand? What does that tell your customers about you? Do you want to differentiate yourself? Do you want to be seen as unique? Do you want to be seen as valuable? Okay, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about who are your customers? What do they do? What are the problems they have? How do you solve those problems? What is your brand? And let's create something and let's develop something that speaks to all of that. That's the industry we need to be in moving forward. We may not sell hundreds of thousands and millions and billions of pieces, but we may sell things that are better. And we may make the same amount of money because what we're doing is we're providing that value, and it gives us the ability to split the cost between here's the promotional product and here's the intellectual property, and be able to sit there and say, look, We charge $250, $500 an hour, whatever we charge for our intellectual property to design this program for you. And we're going to go into a deep dive of who your customers are, what's the value, what's the brand, what's the messaging, what are we trying to achieve? And you're going to pay us a consulting fee for that. And then we're going to source the promotional products for you. And that will be a separate piece. And we're going to make sure that your promotional product dovetails with the rest of your advertising project, so it makes sense, so that whatever we're producing makes sense with everything else that you're doing in terms of your overall marketing. Those are the people that are going to thrive and survive. Because if all you're trying to do is to be another online reseller, to be that person that just has a catalog on your website and just get people to buy, you know what? There's a million places that people can buy that. And sooner or later, the big boys are going to get involved in that. And Amazon's going to get in touch with that. And Walmart's going to get in touch with that. And other people are going to be in touch with that. And you're not going to be able to compete. If it's just based on price, you're going to lose. You're going to lose, and you're going to become just another low-cost commodity supplier that has little value and can be easily replaced and easily forgotten. We need to tell stories. The next thing we need to do is we need to think outside the box. We need to be creative. 10 years ago, there was an industry event that happened every year in Vancouver where we were allowed between certain hours on one day to bring our customers in. And what I did is I scheduled 45-minute appointments where I walked customers through to my key suppliers, talked to them about key programs, walked them out, shook their hands, sent them on their way, brought the next person in and did it again, and did it for 8 hours. And did this for year after year after year. And what I thought was this gave me the ability to be able to not only manage the voice and manage the project and manage the customer, but also give them the opportunity to see what the, more than what I could bring to their office. It was it was almost like sending them to a candy shop and say, here's what's everything that's available. The problem was, when my customers were talking to suppliers, their attitude was, my customer's attitude was, it's the same old stuff. There's nothing new. There's nothing innovative. There's nothing creative. A new color was seen as mind-blowing. A new handle on a mug was seen as mind-blowing. A different color on the pen was seen as mind-blowing. None of this stuff is mind-blowing, and it certainly is not disruptive. We need, as an industry, to start thinking about, how do we be creative? How do we creatively box 6 different things together, build a custom package for it, and be able to have that as something that we give to our customer to give out to their customer? How do we amalgamate different project pieces together from 3 or 4 different suppliers, bring them together, make sure that they're all coded together, make sure they all make sense together, and then have that package go out to the customer? It's more work. It's custom packaging. It's bringing stuff in from 3 or 4 suppliers. It's having the handwork of having the assembly done. There's all the things that go along with it, but all of a sudden, you have something that you've given your customer that they can give to their customer that they can't get somewhere else. We used to do 50,000 of these packages every single year for 15 years for one of the health authorities. We built them a custom box for smoking cessation. And for 15 years, they requested it year after year after year. And the problem was, the project got so large and it became such a significant line item on the health authority's budget that they cut the project, because they sat there and said, this is $500,000. We can spend $500,000 somewhere else, not looking at where that project was going and whose hands it was going in and how many lives it was saving. They saw it 3 levels above the head that I was dealing with as a light item on a spreadsheet, and it got killed. So we need to understand, how is our project being dealt with within the company? Is it being seen as something that's a value add, or is it a line item that can be slashed? We need to be thinking about that. We need to be looking at who else do we need to be talking to within the company, not just the one person we always talk to. Do you have a relationship with the CFO? Do you have a relationship with the CEO? Do you have a relationship with the operations manager, finding out that this how the stuff comes in the door and how it's packaged is just a real pain for them to deal with? You need to understand the company as a whole and how your product that you're bringing in the door affects them as a company. Is it making them more successful, or is it a pain and is it a bother for them? And if all of a sudden you are more of a pain and a bother because the way you invoice, the way you ship, the way that you provide the product, they'll go looking for it for somewhere else. We need to be thinking outside the box. We need to be looking at the whole customer relationship. And it's not just the piece that we provide, it's how we provide it. What's the value add? What makes sense to the customer? How can we change what we do so it makes more sense for them? How can we make things easier for them to deal with us? Because if we can do all that, if we can sit there and think, what is going to make it easier for our customer to deal with us? What are the policies and procedures we can change within our company to make things easier for the customer, whether it's the way we invoice, the way we ship, the way we package things, the way that we communicate, the way that we engage with them as a company? We're either going to solidify that relationship or we're going to be looking for another customer because somebody else will. We need to be thinking forward as an industry. We need to stop thinking ourselves as purveyors of promotional products and logoized materials, as people that are providing a communication solution that's going to solidify the relationship of our customers with their customers. And when we change that thought process, when we change the way we think, when we change the way that we act, when we change the way that we relate to our customers and the questions we ask, we go from being a commodity to being a trusted vendor. And I don't care if you're a supplier to distributors. I don't care if you are a distributor that's going out into the marketplace. We need to communicate better. We need to be asking the questions, how can I help you be more successful? If we can start asking that question and we can stop looking for the cheapest solution and looking to see where we can cut corners, we are going to be far better. And it's understanding our customers far better. It's understanding, where are they today? It's the first question I asked you. How are you feeling? Today, your customers are scared. Today, your customers have laid out more people in the last 4 to 6 weeks than they probably have their entire time that they've been in business. They have no idea how their customers are going to engage with them. They have no idea what the step forward is. They have no idea what the future brings. And until we have that conversation with our customers and listen to them and not try to sell them and just understand where they are, we can't help them. And it may be that, you know what, for the next 3 or 4 or 6 or 8 weeks, we sell them nothing. All we do is we check in and say, how are you? How are the people within your company? How are your customers feeling? Where's the stress level? And be able to sit there and be quiet and listen. The amount of knowledge that we're going to gain is going to allow us to be better suppliers and better vendors and better relationship managers moving forward. We need to think outside the box. Now, I want to thank everybody very much, and I want to take your questions.
All right, Ben, thank you so much. Excuse me. I think we all need to be reminded of just what you taught us in this presentation. We have to step up and step into the new reality. And if we want to be relevant, we have to make sure our customers can be relevant. So with that, I'm going to encourage everyone to please type your questions into the question box for Ben. We actually have plenty of time, and Ben said he's willing to
I'll stick around as long as you guys
take
want to ask questions.
any questions that you have. Okay, well, Ben, I'm going to start off with just a comment that Jay, excuse me, that Jay made. And
Sure.
she says, as long as As long as customers want to buy stuff, there will be people who will sell stuff. Promotional product buyers are often administrators who don't have a vested interest in the profit of the company, just so they get their job done that day. We need to be speaking to the stakeholders.
I would say yes, and I would say no. The question is, does the administrative assistant or the secretary or the admin person who are dealing with want to stay in the position that they're in the rest of their life? Do they want to be seen as someone who's valuable and someone who's adding value to the company? Or do they want somebody who's just going to be seen as an order taker that's going to be kept in the position that they're in the rest of their life? What we have is the opportunity as an organization to help those people shine, to enable them to be better, and to enable them to do something that is going to make the company better and give them the skills that they need to present better quality pieces to the industry, to sit there and say, hey, listen, here are some options that I think are going to be better for our customers. Here are some things that I think that are going to make us more valuable, and ways that we're going to be able to have better conversations with our clients. What do you think about this? Instead of ordering 5,000, let's order 500 and order these instead. I have the same budget, and this is why. And if we can enable our customers to be able to have that conversation, all of a sudden we're enabling them to grow their careers and become better and bigger than they are. And when they do, and they all of a sudden become the leaders within their organization, you're the one who helped them get there. And that's how long-term relationships are formed. I have relationships with people that have gone from being admin assistants to vice presidents over 15 years. And I certainly didn't have those relationships by just giving them what they said they wanted. I gave them the opportunity, and and most of it they did themselves. But what I did was give them the opportunity to shine. And if something went wrong, guess what? It was my fault. I told them, if it goes well, you get all the credit. If it goes wrong, you can blame me. And I'm always good with that.
Okay, Ben, thank you for that. We have another question here from Jane, and Jane says, "Have you personally have you personally told any customer that you are charging for your service above and beyond the promotional product? If so, what was their reaction?"
I've been doing it for 15 years. I have been doing it for 15 years. I have a consulting fee, and people pay my consulting fee in order to, have the conversation about needs analysis and be able to build programs and be able to have that information. And what I do is, if they go ahead with the project, we give them 10% back on the actual purchase of the promotional products. But what they do is they pay for my intellectual property. And I write it right into the contracts, is that the ideas within this document are the intellectual property of Your Brand Marketing Inc. and cannot be shared at any point in time without my express written permission. It's all about positioning. The problem is our industry is willing and has been willing to give away information for free that's valuable to others. The information that you have between your ears, the experience that you have, the other projects that you've done, the other customers that you've helped, is valuable to people. People should be paying for that information. And you know what? Sometimes it takes getting rid of certain customers that won't pay and building customers that will pay, and moving it forward. And there are customers that I build that fee, that to this day, that I've had for a long, long time, that I build my consulting fee into the price. And I have people that I charge separately. It all depends on the customer, but the customer always pays.
Okay, and we have a question here from Lisa. She says, "Can you go into more detail of how you're able to bill your clients for your time?" But I think you just told us.
Yeah, and I can do that. It's really purposefully laying it out that I am a consultant. When you brand yourself as a consultant, not as a promotional product consultant, but as a communications consultant, you are somebody that is billing for your time. I bill myself for my time. My time is valuable, and I tell the lawyers and the doctors and all those people, I says, how much do you charge an hour? Well, $650 an hour. Well, there you go. How much free work do you do? Not a lot. Well, there you go. And I have those conversations. It's a matter of realizing that your time is worth money and the information that you provide is worth money. It's valuable. And it's a mindset shift. It absolutely is a mindset shift. And people are going to say, well, we've never been charged for that in the past. It says, well, the people that have gone through this before, what's the ROI been on the projects that you've done? What's been the return on your investment? Well, I don't know. Well, there you go. Let's have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about being arrogant. It's about understanding your value.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Here's another question from Robert. Robert says, knowing that we are a B2B or B2C industry, what do you think the end customer is going to be asking for right out of the gate? Not specifics, just generalities.
It really depends on never mind in B2B or B2C.
Uh-huh.
It has to do with the actual individual companies themselves. You need to sit there and go, like B2C, I'm not a B2C person. When I've done large B2C type projects, it has usually been gift with purchase. The type of projects that we do are gift with purchase things, and it's add on to packaging. We've done that where we've shrink wrapped specific promotional pieces directly to packaging that makes sense with their things. Like for a coffee company years and years ago, we gave a plastic measuring spoon that was a branded measuring spoon with coffee, so that for when you put your Folgers, it probably wasn't Folgers at the time, but when you went to go measure into your coffee machine, you are using a branded coffee base. So that's a matter of sitting there going, what's going to be useful to the end user? When it's B2B, it's understanding who your customers truly are. Here's a perfect example. We did a project 7 years ago, 8 years ago, where I had a company that was a helicopter maintenance company. They did helicopter maintenance for for companies all around the world. The CEOs of these companies were worth at least $1 million to them, probably more like $10 to $20 million a piece. What we did is we created these Bausch and Lomb telescopes on stands, and we put them in a mahogany box, and we laser branded the box with the logo, not the telescope itself, but the box itself. And it said, in appreciation, my customer's logo and the individual logo of the company that they were giving it to. What we did is we gave that to our customers. They sent it out to their customers. The next 6 months, the CEO of my customer went and visited all of his clients. Every single one of them had that telescope up in the corner of their office because every single one of them had an office that overlooked an airfield somewhere. So it's a matter of understanding what are the kind of gifts that are going to keep you in the frame of mind of your clients. What's going to get you noticed, and what's going to remind your customers of you?
Okay. Ben, we have another question here from Liz. She says, any advice for distributors that sell gifts for incentive travel programs? As you can imagine, no one is traveling right now.
Yeah, and you guys are in a tough market right now. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The travel incentive program market is going to be tough for the next 6 months to a year. Realistically, people are scared to travel. People are scared to get on an airplane. People are scared to be on it. But it's looking at things like maybe you take a look at branded masks that the airlines or the travel company can give out to every single person with a ticket. take a look at things like that. What are things that are going to allow people to feel safer as they travel? And that's where I would start, is to start the conversation with your client, to sit there and say, what are the things that you think are going to make people feel safer as they travel? And talk to your customers, talk to end users, talk to different companies. Yeah, maybe even post a question on Facebook or LinkedIn. Is it what were the type of things that make you feel safer as you're when you start flying again, or when you start going on a cruise again? And pose that question out there on the internet and listen to the answers, and maybe you're going to come up with some things that are going to be innovative, that you can go to your customer and say, look, I did some research, these are the type of things people are talking about, here's some things that we can look at that are going to not only going to be on brand for you, but are going to be valuable to your customers. But it's about building trust. It's about building trust again. It's trust in the industry.
That is an excellent suggestion, Ben. That is an excellent suggestion. Okay, so we have Michelle here. She says, with many of our customers working remotely or being temporarily laid off and their companies not fully operational, what is the best way to contact our buyers and what to say?
I think right now, it all depends on the relationship you have with them. The one thing that I would not be doing right now with any buyer right now is trying to sell them stuff. I think the conversation says, how are you? How is your health? How are people within your office doing? What are the biggest challenges that you guys are facing right now? How's your family? What are the stresses that you're in? What are the things that you've learned through this that have made you stronger? What are the things that you've learned about yourself that you didn't realize? Those are the type of questions that we really need to be asking and listening, because when you're doing that, you're connecting with people on a human level. And if you do that, you're able to build that trust relationship as you move through this. You're the person that they're going to remember. And it's not going after people every 2 or 3 days. It's talking to people, say, every, depending on the relationship we have them, every 2 weeks to a month, and just say, hey, listen, I'm just checking in to make sure you guys are all safe. I'm checking in to make sure your family's okay. I'm making sure that everybody in the office is healthy and safe. And if there's anything I can do, please reach out, and here's my phone number. It's hopefully you have LinkedIn, for these people. Some people you're going to have email addresses for. Some people you're going to have, you're going to have there to be able to text them. It all depends on what your relationship is moving out. Looking at for new clients right now is probably not a good thing, because everybody else is so inundated. Everybody's inundated with a million messages right now. I got 250 emails this morning about companies having a solution for me for COVID-19. I'm done with it. I'm absolutely done with it. I'm not interested in new vendors right now. I'm not interested in new solutions right now. I'm interested in hearing from the people that I know, like, and trust already, to hear what their thought processes are, because they understand me and they understand a little bit about my company and might give me some intelligent views about how I might be able to move forward. I got an email this morning from somebody I do work with, who sent me an article saying, Ben, I just thought you would find this valuable. That's another thing, is sending people articles that say, you know what, this article is not going out to 1,000 people, it's going out to you. This is an article I thought that you thought would be of interest, and this is why. And it's building those relationships. It's about know, like, and trust.
Okay, Ben, Lisa asked a question here, and she says, would you be willing to share a generic version of your, I'm sure she means your consulting contract with us?
I can put some verbiage together, and be able to send it to Sandra, and or I can send it to Paul or whatever, and have it available for you guys. Just what's the verbiage on the bottom of my piece?
Mhm.
Absolutely, I can do that.
Okay,
It's there's not a lot to it. There honestly isn't a lot to it, but it's giving people the just an understanding of, I'm serious.
mhm.
And that's all it is. It's people may ignore it, and that's a different conversation, but it's a matter of giving people an understanding of, you're not like everybody else.
Okay, that's great. And then if you were to send that to me, I will make it available to the executive directors of your regional association, and you can touch base with them. And if you want to receive a copy of that. So thank you. We appreciate that.
Sure, my pleasure.
Okay, so we have about 5 more minutes. Ben, we do have a few more questions, so I'm just going to keep going.
Ready when you are.
Okay, and it says here, this is from Harvey, and Harvey says, how do you define a program versus selling 500 widgets?
A program is a different thought process. A program is thinking long term. It's thinking, how am I going to sell to a customer for the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years? And that program is going to change, and the pieces within that program are going to change. But it's thinking long term. It's thinking of, Mr. Customer, what are your small, medium, and long term goals? Who are your customers? What are the type of things that you do? How often do you go out there and talk to them? What are the different ways that you touch your customer? What's the different advertising methods that you use? How do you segment your customers? And being able to develop a series of promotional items that talk through their yearly calendar. It's a matter of looking at it going, do you send stuff out at Christmas or do you send out something at Thanksgiving? I mean, if everybody sends you a bottle at Christmas, getting another bottle at Christmas is like, okay, it's one more. Here's a perfect example. 15 years ago, I have a very good customer. I brought him a really nice bottle, $120, $140 bottle of scotch, and I brought it to his office. He said, Ben, I hate to do this to you. But he walked me into the boardroom. He says, look, we get gifts like this all the time. Nobody's allowed to keep their bottle of scotch. It has to go into the boardroom. And what we do is we start with the lowest of the frontline employees. They get first grabs. The last person who gets grabs off that table is the CEO. And that's how their company worked. He says, I appreciate it. If you want to take it home with you and you and I can go back to my house and we can drink a bottle of scotch together, I'm game. But this is how we work as an organization. If you send somebody stuff out at Thanksgiving, none of your other competitors are sending stuff out for Thanksgiving. And if you create a Thanksgiving campaign for your customers to send out to their customers, it differentiates them. Or a Mother's Day gift where he says, hey, in case you forgot Mother's Day, here's a gift to give out to your wife, or here's a gift for you as a female employee. I've walked into offices with 500 red roses and walked up to people and said, this is for you, this is for your wife, this is for your girlfriend, this is for you, this is for your wife, this is for your girlfriend. And the appreciation that we got out of that was huge, because I was thinking about making their lives better. And those are the programs that we need to be thinking about, instead of just looking at what can I sell you today, and then, okay, when something else comes up, I'll sell you something else. It's thinking about how can we sell them ongoing and build that relationship so it's month after month, year after year, hopefully decade after decade.
Okay, great answer, Ben. Ben, can you please show your contact information
Yeah,
again?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then I have another question for you here. And this question is from Sharky. The question is, how do we know we are a trusted vendor to our clients? How would you go about asking them? Just because they ordered from you over and over said something, but how do you truly know?
When they come up to you and ask you, we need to do something, but we don't know how. I mean, quite honestly, when you start having your customers going up and says, Ben, I know this isn't quite in your wheelhouse, but what do you think of this? That's when you know you're a trusted partner. When your customers are coming to you for stuff that you may or may not be able to solve, but they know that you're going to help them get through this. My customers know I've got a Rolodex that's 3 miles long. And if I can't solve their problem, I know somebody that will, and I will recommend it to them, no problem. And it's when we start looking at people like that, and people sit there going, Ben, you know what, the CEO's birthday's coming up. We have no idea what to get them. You know, do you have some time to come in and talk to us? That's when you know you're a trusted partner. And the only way you become that is when you're the one that's giving them suggestions that are outside the box, and you're providing them with information and ideas and solutions that none of your competitors are. And it takes time. You do not become a trusted partner overnight. Some people might take months, some people might take years. You know, you may go one day go from being that commodity person that's one of, you know, 6 different people on a bid list to being the person they sit there going, you know what? Whenever we have something like this, anyone in the company has to talk to Ben. That's it. You know,
Mhm.
and you know that when that shift happens, when you become the vendor of choice, when you become the person that people come to and rely on, that's when you know you're a trusted partner. And that's when you don't abuse it. You don't jack up. That's not when you jack up your prices. That's not when you take your foot off the gas. That's not when you lay down your quality. That's when you double down.
Well, Ben, now we know why you're a trusted advisor and why you are paid for your time because you give excellent advice. We actually are at the 1:30 time frame, which means we do have to end our webinar, but I cannot thank you enough for sharing with us your knowledge and expertise. I hope you all downloaded the handout, and as you see, Ben's contact information is still on the screen. You want to go ahead, take a picture of it, write it down, do whatever it is you need to do, because I think, Ben, you're going to become several of our trusted advisors. Thank you again. We really do appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks everybody for listening in. I appreciate it. And I hope this hour was valuable to everybody.
It certainly was to me. Okay, everyone, just a few closing comments for you. Again, thank you all for participating today. It's been great having you on the entire month of April. We do have more in store for you for the month of May. We want to thank Edwards Garment Company, who is our webinar sponsor. And I just want to remind you, or I should say, I just want to share with you what we have coming up for May. So for May 6th, we have Sam Kabert, and his subject is how to open doors during a recession. On May 13th, we have Paul Bellantone, the CEO and president of PPAI, as well as Ann Stone and some regional association special guests. We're going to do a town hall format, and the subject is getting back to business with your regional association. And for that one, we're going to encourage you to put in questions, submit questions, I should say, when you register for that webinar. On May 20th, we are going to come right back with Tim Andrews, CEO of ASI, and his subject is COVID-19 and the advertising specialty industry. Again, when you register for that webinar, we are going to encourage you to include your question because this will be a town hall format. And lastly, to end the month in May, we have Charity Gibson on May 27th. And Charity's going to come to us with the powerhouse presentation, Building Your Brand with Purpose. So we've got you all lined up for May. Looking forward to learning with you again. And again, thank you all for participating. Have a wonderful day and stay safe. And to you, thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you very much. I
All
enjoyed
right,
being part of this.
awesome.